If you need a new tactic for your FC25 Ultimate team, you've come to the right place. Keep watching because I'm going to show you all the tactics I use myself and even some other ones that a lot of high level players use too. And I promise at least one of them will really fit your game. Okay, so starting off with my main tactic that I use going into the start of every match. It's the 4-4-1-1 flat. Very, very strong and balanced formation this year. You'll see a lot of pros using it. The main reason I like it is for the first time chip through balls. Hence why I have Charlton and Didier Drogba, because Charlton has incisive and long ball pass, and Drogba is just a demon when he gets going in behind when you trigger his runs. Paired with the power shot, it's still one of the most effective ways to attack on this game. I did cover how to do it in more depth in my meta attacking tips video if you want to go and check that out as well. But let's start off with the rest of the tactics here. With the goalkeeper, you can kind of use sweeper keeper or goalkeeper interchangeably. I tend to just go with whatever the goalkeeper I'm using has on a ++. Part of me kind of prefers sweeper keeper because they come off the line more and they can be a bit more aggressive, especially with Courtois having the rush out plus playstyle. But if you have someone like Buffon or Tim Herod who has the goalkeeper ++ role, they'll probably be a bit better on that. Defenders, for me, I always just like defender defend, even better again if you have the role ++. The only exception for this is I've been experimenting with Van Dijk back on ball playing defender ++ again recently rather than just normal defender plus, because I know a lot of people are still using gold Van Dijk. I was up until quite recently, and he does a very good job on ball playing defender ++ as well, but I'm not sure if that really applies to other players. I feel like that only works for Virgil specifically. So in other cases, I would just go with defender defend on both centre backs. Then you want to have either your left or your right back on full back balance for this tactic. That's what I like to do. If you want to have a bit more cover defensively, you can put them on defend. They'll tuck in a little bit more, but it gives you the option to manually trigger the run for them to overlap as well when they're on balance, because they kind of just push up a tiny bit more while still being defensively sound. With the other fullback, you have a bit of a choice here. I like to use attacking wingback a lot recently. I used to just use regular wingback, but I feel like attacking wingback with certain players like Roberto Carlos, who I managed to pack, it just makes their AI crazy and they're just always in the right spot for me. And usually with attacking wingback, I find that they struggle kind of to come back a little bit more. That's why I use wingback. But with Roberto Carlos, I haven't been having that problem that much. He seems to track back really well. In a general scenario though, I would just recommend going with a wingback. They still offer you a little bit going forward, but then again, if you want them to push up even more, you can still manually trigger the run by tapping LB. If not, they offer you a bit more defensively. But if you really want to be very conservative and defensively sound and you don't really want to rely that much on the attacking AI and you're good at triggering your own runs, you could just run them both on fullback balance. It's entirely up to your preference. For me, I like attacking wingback at the moment. Again, with the CMs, I would try and play to the roles. I really like playmaker ++ on one of my CMs, but if I'm using a player that has the box-to-box role instead, for example, as a ++, I would opt for that. But if they have both on a ++, I'm obviously going to take playmaker. You can also experiment a lot with roaming. It's quite nice too. They find better little pockets to go into, but if you want just a bit more of a uniform midfield, playmaker attack is probably the best. Now, wingers are a bit of an interesting one. With Yamal, I like him on inside forward because he gets to cut in with his finesse. That's the way I've evoed him. He has finesse plus. But I know that a lot of people's custom tactics have just been all inside forward, inside forward, inside forward, and that doesn't always have to be the case. For example, winger is also very good. It offers you a lot more out wide, especially paired with an attacking fullback. It's good to create those triangles and to just work the fullback and the winger up the line, create space, getting behind fast. Another one I really like that I think is really underrated is wide playmaker, especially if you have it on a ++. Again, they still kind of can get in those positions for the Travellas, as you can see by the little green map over there. They can kind of drift inside a little bit, but they still mostly stay wide, so you still kind of have that option to link with the fullbacks a bit more as well, rather than fully just tucking in. Nearly like the centre forwards from the 4-3-2-1 of last year, basically. So again, it's entirely up to preference. Experiment, go with what you like. As a baseline, I'd probably start off with inside forward balance. Some people use attack. I like balance because it tracks back more. And then I think with the cam on this formation, the playmaker has to be a non-negotiable. Maybe if you're in need of a goal late on in the game, you can go with a shadow striker. But playmaker in this game, for those first time chip through balls, like I said, is just a must have. And then with the striker, I really like advanced forward. I don't think you can go wrong with advanced forward, especially in a one striker formation. Some people like poacher too. I only really tend to get along with it if I have it on a ++ role. I feel like they're just a bit too stagnant without that. At the moment, I'm using Drogba on an advanced forward, but again, poacher is also quite good too. So this is how my team looks with the ball. As you can see, it's actually quite attack oriented. I can be kind of susceptible to counters. I wouldn't recommend being this aggressive if you aren't quite good at manual defending. But again, if you want a little bit more stability, you can just put one of the fullbacks on wingback or even just on fullback. As you can see, they tuck in a lot more. You can put one of the center mids as a holding as well. I also quite like deep lying playmaker this year, so there's a lot of options there. 2 holdings or 2 deep lyings isn't bad either if you just want to have like a solid line in your midfield, but that will be at the sacrifice of some of your attacking AI going forward. That's just something to bear in mind. For me, I really get along with build-up style balance this year. I've experimented with all 3. I feel like on certain formations, short passing might be a bit better. We'll get to that later on, but on this formation, I really like balanced. I always run 71 depth. I think that might be quite high for a lot of people. I have a very aggressive defensive style. Don't be afraid to go down to like 65, 61. I would keep it on high for the auto offside traps, because once you go to 60 or under, you don't get those auto offside traps anymore, which I think this year are quite important. Anywhere between 60 and 70 for an average player. If you want to be a bit more aggressive or you're a bit more confident in your defending, you can bump it up to like 70, 75 maybe. I tend to do 71 because that's what I ran last year and it just works for me. So the 4-2-1-3 is probably the rattiest formation in the game at the moment. You've probably seen most of your opponents using this the past couple of weeks, but it is very overpowered, as you can see. The way I like to run it, again, I do like to run it on an attacking wingback, but as a general rule, maybe a wingback or just a fullback is better. This is just a Roberto Carlos specific thing. I like one of my CDMs, like Rice with the plus. I really like him on ball winning on this setting with a DM. I feel like with the block plus and the intercept plus, he's really good at just blocking those finesses, cutting in, and he's just good at breaking up play, you know? Rolfo I use on deep lying. Again, you can also run. I've seen some people run center half. I don't personally get along with it, but I've seen some people do it. For me, on the two DMs, either go both holding or go one holding, one deep lying. That's what I like to do. I've been experimenting a bit with roaming. I feel like it leaves a bit too much of a gap. She pushes forward a bit too much, but I do actually quite like build up quite a lot. Build up is quite good as well if you want that little bit more going forward, because the one thing with this formation I find is that there can be a bit of a gap between transitioning from your DMs to your attackers, you know, like the only real link you have between your midfield and your attack is the cam. So if your opponent is just man marking your cam, or he's really on him, like there's not really a lot else you can do. It's quite hard to build up, and then your wingers and your forwards will just keep getting pressed by the back line. In certain scenarios, I do find this formation really good. It's basically just a more defensively sound 4-4-1-1 because of the two DMs. But as you can see, the instructions are pretty much the same. It just applies to different positions. Like I just have wingers on inside forward instead of wide mids. Charlton on this setting I like on roaming just because he can show to pick up the ball more. He can drop into more spaces. He's in better positions for those first time chip through balls, especially where he doesn't have two center mid supporting him. He has two players sitting slightly further back. But other than that, it's all the same. I still run balance, build up, and I still run 71 depth on this tactic. Next up is the 4-1-2-1-2 narrow. This is a formation that gets slept on a lot in my opinion. It kind of has to fit a specific play style, but if you love a bit of fast tiki-taka play and you've got players that can actually pass in this game, which I know is kind of hard to find, it will work a charm for you boys, trust me. This is the one I like short passing on, like I mentioned earlier, because it's just constant tiki-taka. You could just ping the ball around, everyone's close to each other. Your opponent can't keep up, especially with how bad the player switching is this year. And again, defensive approach, I have it on 72 here instead of 71, but you know, it's basically the same thing. I know Vinny's out of position here. I sub on Roberto for him if I want to play this formation, so he slots in as a center mid playmaker as well. I use both these on playmaker, but again, if you have one that's a box-to-box plus instead, I'd probably run with that. I always play for the plus roles. As you can see, that nearly this whole team has plus roles except Drogba. It nearly runs like clockwork. Again, I have both these fullbacks on attacking wingback. That is very, very, very aggressive, and this is very susceptible to being countered. If you want to be a bit more conservative, which I probably would recommend, put one of them on fullback, put the other one just on wingback, or you can run them both on wingback. If you're going to start the game with this formation, I wouldn't have them both on attacking wingback. I usually switch to this later on in the game when I'm a goal or two down. I really want to just create a lot more chances and just put a lot more pressure on my opponent with attacking AI. That's kind of what I use this formation for. But other than that, it's pretty much the same. I use Yamal on Poacher plus because that's the role he has. If he had advanced forward plus, I probably prefer that. But Poacher plus does the job as well. Advanced forward on Drogba. I'm just a pure playmaker man on cam. But to be fair, in this formation, you could definitely get away with a shadow striker a lot more as well, because you have way more support in midfield. But for me personally, playmaker is my thing. Same with the two CMs. If I can get playmaker plus on both, that's what I'll do. Holding plus on the DM. Ball winning is really nice since they added that instruction. I really like it. And the rest is pretty much the same, just short passing instead of balanced build up. Right, the last one of my own tactics now, as you can see, is called Inshallah, because this is literally like last 5-10 minutes of the game. I desperately need to go down. I'm going gung-ho. I'm going all out. I'm sending my whole team forward. Again, this is literally just for that and nothing else. I wouldn't use this in your regular gameplay. As you can see, I have both the defenders on balance instead of defend. They just push up a little bit more. You could even do stopper in this case if you want to be really aggressive, but that's quite a hard role to use on a defender. It takes a bit of practice. Again, I just have both the fullbacks absolutely bombing up. It's a 4-2-4 just to keep a load of pressure on the opponents. If he's trying to pass it around the back, I just have all these guys constantly on their case, and then these two midfielders looking to sweep up. Rolfo moves forward quite a bit as well. It works quite well, to be honest, if I need a goal. Bear in mind, if the opponent does beat my press, I'm pretty fucked and I will get countered. But if I'm in desperate need of a goal and I want to put pressure on, this is the best tactic for it. This is where I do use counter, because it just sends everyone in behind as quickly as possible, and I just run 100 depth on this one again just to be super aggressive. And as you can see, lads, on all these tactics, the code is just there underneath the name of the tactic in the top left corner of the screen. Moving on to the old reliable, the classic, it's 4-4-2 obviously. Again, code's in the top left. It's pretty much the same thing. I like balance, I like 71 depth. This formation just offers you a bit more pressure because you have two strikers to press the defenders along with the two wingers. It offers you a little bit less midfield, obviously. That's a sacrifice you're willing to make, but it's a very good balanced formation to use that a lot of pros use and a lot of elite players use. Again, with the roles, it really does come down to preference. With this one, I would definitely at least put both fullbacks or one on just wingback. I wouldn't use a full-blown attacking fullback in this setup or the next one I'm going to tell you about, but I do have McManaman set to wingback here. Again, I've Howard and goalkeeper. The one thing I would say about the goalkeeper role is I would never use them on goalkeeper defend. If it is goalkeeper, I always put them on balance, because as you can see on defend, they just don't come off their line at all, whereas at least with balance they do a little bit, not as much as sweeper keeper. But other than that, everything's basically the same. We have one of the center mids to be a holding, the other one's a playmaker. Two strikers are advanced forward. If you want to run one as a poacher, you can if they have the role plus like Cahill here. Or again, another thing with the 4-4-2 is you can also run one of the strikers as a false 9 and they can nearly act like a cam, again for those first time chip through balls that are really overpowered. Or if they have finesse +2, I find false 9 can be really good for them to drop into those pockets, score those long range green time finesses if you can do them. Again, with the wingers, it's literally just preference. Most people use inside forward on both. I like inside forward a lot on Yamal. Obviously, Roberto is very good in a wide playmaker plus, but he can do anything. You can put him inside forward, you can put him on a winger plus as well. Other than that, everything's the same. And finally, boys, the last tactic of the video. This is one that I really want to start experimenting with a lot more myself over the next while, because it's a very, very, very balanced formation, and it's a very good one to frustrate your opponents if you like to just pass the ball around and hold possession. With this one, I do also like the build-up style on short passing, just because there's a flat 5 in the midfield. I want to be able to do some tiki-taka in between them. I want to hold the ball as long as possible. I want to frustrate my opponent. I want to try get him to press me and then leave gaps in his defense, which I can then play into. That's the whole premise of this tactic. Depth is on 71. That's entirely your preference. I just put it on high for the auto offside traps. Doesn't really matter what number. And tactics are pretty much the same again. It's same for the 4-4-2. And this one, I really like both fullbacks. It just offers a lot more defensive solidity. And with the attacking AI, like, it gives you enough going forward with 2 playmakers and 2 inside forwards. But again, if you want to run one on a wing back, you definitely can do that. The main thing with this formation is that your central center mid has to be the holding one. I feel like that is the most important thing about this formation, and he has to be half decent at defending. Xavi probably isn't the best example for a holding midfielder here, to be honest. Like, I'd have a Declan Rice or something here over him, but this is just an example for the sake of the video. But what you want in this player is just a solid shithouse, preferably someone with press proven, someone with anticipate, someone with intercept, and a bit of pace, who's just good at reading the game and has very good defensive AI. You kind of just need someone to sweep up and cover the 2 playmakers who will go forward quite a lot. Again, you can put both of these on roaming if you want. They'll pick up a bit more pockets going forward, and it'll open up a bit more space for your inside forwards maybe. And again, with this formation, I think the only 2 options really here are advanced forward or poacher. I don't really think there's any other good options for the 4-5-1. I feel like with a lone striker, you kind of just need one of those 2 options. If you want to use like a false 9, it's only really good paired with a second striker this year, I feel like. But that's how I like to run this tactic, man. It is very solid in possession, especially with the short passing. And as you can see, the code is just there on the top left of the screen as well. If you lads have any other questions whatsoever, feel free to pop them for me down in the comments. I'll be more than happy to answer you guys' questions. This really should improve your game, and I'm not trying to be mean, but if it doesn't, it might be a bit of a skill issue, boys, because these are the best tactics that there are. These are what the pros use. Take it from someone who isn't a pro but watches a lot of pro players. These are all the formations that they're using, guys. So if they're doing it, you can probably do it too. But with that, guys, that's the end of the video. Real quick, I just want to thank you all again for watching. If you made it all the way through, I'd really appreciate if you drop me a comment to let me know. I'd appreciate if you share this video with a friend if you think it would help them as well. It also helps me more than you would think. And if you want to stick around and subscribe, I would really appreciate that too. My name's Azza. I upload a lot of FC25 content that I'm sure you'll enjoy if you like this. And yeah, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.